The first thing that stopped the room was not my grandmother's voice. It was the knife. Denise had been cutting the cake, carefully, like she always did, pressing the blade down in a slow, deliberate line so the slice would come out clean enough to look impressive on a plate. It was a habit she never grew out of, this need to make small things appear polished, as if presentation alone could elevate whatever sat beneath it. The cake itself was simple. Vanilla sponge, lemon filling, white frosting. But Denise had spent too much time smoothing the surface, shaping the edges, adjusting the angle of the cut like it was something that needed to perform. The knife was halfway through the second slice when her hand stopped. Not slowly, not hesitantly. It just froze. The frosting stretched for a second before snapping back, leaving a thin streak across the blade. A small drop slid down and landed on the plate beneath it, and no one reached to wipe it away. Because by then, everyone at the table had seen what my grandmother had placed in the center. A bus pass. It was small, blue plastic, slightly scratched, edges worn from use. The corner had been bent enough times that the white underneath showed through the color. It was the kind of object no one would notice under normal circumstances. Something you pull out, tap, and put away without thinking. But on that table, under that light, surrounded by polished silverware, crystal glasses, and carefully arranged flowers that Denise had insisted on bringing herself, it looked out of place. Worse than out of place. It looked like evidence. Grandma had not said anything when she took it out. She hadn't drawn attention to herself. She hadn't even looked up immediately. She simply removed her glasses, folded them once, set them beside her plate, and then placed the card down in front of her. Flat. Centered. Deliberate. That was the moment the room changed. Not loudly, not suddenly, but completely. "How?" she said, her voice even, controlled. "Does someone who says they work in finance arrive at a birthday dinner with this?" No one spoke, and that silence wasn't confusion. It was recognition. That was the first thing I understood. No one at that table was surprised. Jason leaned forward slightly, elbows hovering near the edge of the table, his interest immediate and unfiltered. Denise pressed her lips together, not in shock, but in that careful way she had when something confirmed a suspicion she had been holding on to quietly. My father didn't look at me. He looked at the card, and that mattered more than anything anyone said. Because when a father looks at the evidence instead of his child, he has already started shifting into judgment. I let my eyes move slowly around the table. Denise across from me, Jason beside her, Uncle Robert at the far end, leaning back already, his hand resting near his glass. My father to my left, Grandma at the head of the table, her hand still close to the card, not touching it but near enough to claim it. No one asked if something had happened. No one asked if I was all right. No one asked if the bus had been temporary or convenient or faster. They didn't need clarification. They had already decided what it meant. "Well," Robert said first, leaning back further in his chair, adjusting his cuff as if settling into something expected. "I suppose that explains a few things." There it was. Not curiosity. Confirmation. Jason followed immediately. "No car," he said. "No house upgrades, no visible changes. I've been wondering for a while." Denise nodded carefully. "I didn't want to say anything unfair," she added. "But yes, I noticed too." Noticed. Which meant discussed. Which meant concluded, just not in front of me. Grandma tapped the bus pass once. A small sound. Plastic against wood. But in that room, Vietnamese. It carried weight. This, she said, is not what success looks like. Grandma didn't repeat herself. She didn't need to. The question had already done its work. It wasn't a request for information. It was a decision looking for confirmation. Jason leaned back now, more relaxed than before, like the tension had resolved into something he understood. That makes sense, he said. Honestly, no one asked him to explain. He did anyway. You've always been quiet about things, he added. No updates, no milestones, no real signs. It fits. Fits. That word landed harder than anything else so far, because it meant they weren't reacting to new information. They were organizing it. Denise nodded slowly. I think we all assumed you were doing fine, she said. Just not at the level we expected. Expected. There it was again. Not reality. Expectation. A structure they had built long before this dinner. My father shifted slightly in his chair, still not looking at me. You've always kept things to yourself, he said. Too neutral, too careful, too private. That was the accusation, disguised as observation. And in this family, privacy had always been treated like a problem. Because privacy removes visibility, and visibility is how they measured value. Grandma folded her hands. We need clarity, she said. That word settled over the table like a rule being established. Denise followed immediately. There's inheritance to consider. Of course. It had been there all along. Just waiting. Jason leaned forward again. We need to understand where everyone stands. Everyone. But the focus never moved. It stayed on me. My father finally looked up. If things aren't stable, he said, we should be realistic. Realistic. Which meant reduction, adjustment, repositioning. Grandma leaned slightly closer. How much do you actually have? This time, the question was heavier. Not curious. Final. The room held still, because now, this wasn't about guessing anymore. This was about placing me. There is a specific kind of silence that only happens in families. It isn't empty, it's structured. Every person in the room holding a position, waiting, measuring. Jason tapped his fingers lightly against the table, not impatient, just unable to sit still inside that kind of tension. You don't have to be exact, he said. Just general. General. Safe enough to avoid embarrassment. Specific enough to confirm judgment. Denise added, softer. We're not trying to judge. That line always appears right before judgment is finalized. My father exhaled slowly. We just need to understand. No, they didn't. They needed placement. I looked at each of them, one by one, and understood something clearly. They weren't asking me for truth. They were asking me to validate what they already believed. So I did something they didn't expect. I didn't answer. Not directly, instead, I asked, when you say success, what do you mean? Jason frowned. What do you mean? Denise answered, stability, growth, security. Good answer. Incomplete. And how do you recognize it? I asked. That changed the room, because now they had to define perception. Jason hesitated. You see it, he said. Denise nodded. Lifestyle reflects it. There it was, the bridge between wealth and visibility. Reached into my bag, pulled out the folder, placed it on the table. This time, I opened it. Pages, clean, organized. No dramatic number, no single figure meant to shock. Just structure. Assets, income streams, low debt, long-term positions. Jason leaned forward, reading, then flipped a page. Then another. His expression changed. Not dramatically, but enough. "This isn't basic," he said. "No." Denise leaned in. Her eyes moved faster than his, searching, comparing, trying to find the gap. "This can't be everything," she said. "It's everything relevant," I replied. That irritated her, because what she wanted was something visible, something that matched her definition. My father leaned forward. "This says no debt." "Almost none. No car. No." Jason looked up. "You could afford one?" "Yes." "Then why don't you?" I picked up the bus pass, held it between my fingers. "Because this works better." I turned another page. A timeline. 10 years. Not spikes, not sudden growth. Consistency, savings, investment, discipline. Jason stared at it longer. "This isn't recent," he said. "No." "How long?" "A decade." That shifted everything, because now, this wasn't hidden success. It was ignored effort. Denise sat back, processing. My father didn't speak. Grandma finally moved. Not toward the pages, toward me. "You planned this," she said. Not accusation, recognition. "Yes." "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because saying it would have changed how you treated me." Silence. Deep, uncomfortable, true. "We thought you were behind," Jason said. "I know. You let us think that. I didn't correct assumptions you never asked about." That distinction landed harder than anything else, because it couldn't be argued. Denise spoke again, but slower. "So you just let everyone be wrong?" I looked at her. "No, let everyone choose not to ask." People don't always avoid the truth. Sometimes they avoid the question that would reveal it. Grandma picked up the bus pass, turned it once, looked at it differently. "When I was young," she said, "not having visible security meant risk." I know. I taught this family to look for signs. And now? She paused, longer this time. Now I see signs can be wrong. That was the shift. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. She placed the card back down, carefully. "That's efficient," she said. Her version of respect. Dinner resumed, but slower, quieter, measured. Jason didn't joke. Denise didn't evaluate. My father didn't lead. The room adjusted, not completely, but enough that the old assumptions no longer held. After everyone left, Grandma asked me to stay. "When I was young," she said, "security had to be visible." Because it was fragile. Yes. "And now?" "The world changed," she said, "and I didn't fully update." That mattered, more than any apology. The bus ride home was quiet. The city didn't care about family dynamics, didn't care about inheritance, didn't care about assumptions. It moved, consistently, like everything that actually works. They saw a bus pass and built a conclusion. I built a system and didn't need to show it. The difference wasn't money. It wasn't opportunity. It was definition. They were measuring what I showed. I was building what I didn't need to. And that was the only version that lasted.